Welcome back, y'all. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. Today, we're going to be talking about our offensive line. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. So, first and foremost, I think that the bye week's coming at a perfect time because several players are kind of banged up. We need to get, back as close to 100% as we possibly can heading into the real gauntlet portion of the ACC schedule. But really, man, our offensive line needs this more than anybody, especially our tackles. We know that John Campbell has been starting at right tackle, but it seems like he's been playing less and less over the past couple of weeks. Now, he has been splitting time with Dane Davis throughout the entire season. But this is going to be big for him. Hopefully, just to kind of get whatever he's been dealing with kind of, I guess fixed. Probably not going to be 100% fixed for the entire season, but the healthier he is, the better. Also, at left tackle, Lance Hurd hasn't played for the past couple of weeks. We know that he didn't even make the trip to Norman. It's been a lot of rumors kind of circulating around out there. I'm not going to add to it, but y'all know what I'm talking about. I mean, the speculation of, is he, not playing for this reason or that reason? As far as what I've heard, okay, again, I'm speculating. I get the same type of access to information as y'all do. So as far as what I've heard, it kind of sounds like he's dealing with a very minor ankle issue that he's been trying to get back to 100% strength. And maybe somebody involved in his team has kind of helped to convince him that he needs to sit out until he can get that fully taken care of. And, it doesn't necessarily sound like that's come from Tennessee's team doctors. Now, again, y'all, that is pure speculation. I'm not trying to add to any more of the rumors, but if you pay attention to everything, that's kind of the, direction that everything is pointing towards. So, number one, first and foremost, I don't think that that's a huge deal. Understand, football in this day and age, in college, or, really even going all the way down to like high school, it is all about business, or it's mostly going to be about business at the end of the day. So he's got to do what, is going to be best for him to protect his brand. The ultimate goal is going to be to make it to the league and to make as much money as you possibly can. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think that Lance Hurd is a dog. There's no reason for us to necessarily think otherwise. I mean, yeah, did we miss him in those games? For sure. But are we going to need him more for some of these games coming up? I would say absolutely. Maybe they just felt like, hey, this is a game versus OU that Tennessee could still win without Lance Hurd. And now, again, hindsight's 2020, but that's a game that I would have loved for Lance to go out there and, play with his teammates in. Again, y'all, that's pure speculation. I would expect that Lance Hurd is going to be joining us, hopefully for the rest of the season, but definitely versus Arkansas. I feel like he will come on out there and play. So that's going to be big just to add him back to this lineup. And again, hopefully, guys like John Campbell can get back as healthy as possible as well. But at the same time, I feel like just kind of filling in some of those spots with our backup tackles, they've done a pretty good job. Now, Dane Davis hasn't been the absolute best. We're going to take a look at the numbers from Pro Football Focus, from the game versus OU, and we'll just take a look at what everyone has done. Y'all know that I take Pro Football Focus's grades with a grain of salt, but at the same time, their grading scale should be pretty consistent. So if nothing else, we should be able to tell who's kind of played the best and who maybe needs to work on that game a little bit more. Okay, we'll also take a look at the schedule and see, at what point do we need to be at 100% go before we start to, get a little bit more concerned? Like, what games can we win even without our starting left tackles like we've had, over the past couple of weeks? You know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and pull up these numbers from Pro Football Focus. And we'll be starting off with the pass blocking numbers. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pull this key up for y'all real quick because I know it's a whole lot on here. I don't even know what everything means, but I'm just going to pull this up for y'all. If y'all want to pause it, take a look at all that. So as we're going through it, you have a better understanding. That's perfectly fine. We'll do that for the pass blocking and also for the run blocking. But as you're looking right here, okay, at all of these grades in pass protection versus Oklahoma, Larry Johnson III ranked or graded out the highest. Now, do I 100% agree with that? I don't know for sure. I have watched the game a few times back. I told you I feel like he played well. Did he play that well? I mean, they're saying that he did. So based off of their metrics, he was, the highest graded pass blocker, from this game. And I think that that is impressive. I think that it says a lot about how far he's come because, he didn't look great last weekend versus Kent State as far as what I could see. But, for him to come out in a really big game when his team needed him the most, and even though it looks like it was only on like 11 plays where he was actually pass blocking, he graded out very, very high with an 82.7. The next highest player was actually Deshaun Bishop with a 79.2. Then we've got Holden Stays, 76.6. Miles Kittleman, 74.5. I told you that our tight ends played a really good game. Also, Ethan Davis at 73.2. Then we've got Andre Carrick who is the highest offensive lineman as far as pass protection goes, or he was the highest graded offensive lineman as far as pass protection goes, outside of Larry Johnson. With the 71 overall, then we got Cam Seldon. He was only in for, looks like they're showing 2 right there, but he only actually got into his pass blocking set with 1 rep. So he got a 70.8. Then we got Coot with a 70.8. Then Spraggs, then John Campbell, who we know has been banged up. We just talked about that. He's kind of dealing with some things. Hopefully he'll get back a little bit more healthy and he'll be able to play to his ultimate potential. Now, I will tell you, I disagree with that grade being as low as it is for John Campbell. I think that he did a really nice job just as far as pass blocking. Then we have Dane Davis, and then up under that we have D. Samp. So I think it's pretty fair to say that Dane Davis and D. Samp, based off of this, need to improve on their pass blocking. And I would definitely agree with that. So it is pretty consistent with what I saw on film. I can tell you that right here, right now. Also, as we kind of scroll over, there's a couple more things that I did want to look at. All right, so sacks. All right, so inside of this column, let me see if I can get it. All right, so that column right there, I'll just pull that up in post for you. It's saying that we had 3 sacks, and we had 1 that was given up by Javonte Spraggins, 1 was given up by Dane Davis, and then 1 it looks like was given up by D. Samp. So those 3 players, yeah, I would have to agree. It looked like the sacks did come from those guys. But, you know, you're never going to play perfect. I would say all in all, looking at all these players in green as far as pass blocking goes, you got to be impressed with what our offensive line did versus a front 7 that a lot of people are saying might be top 3 in the SEC. Now, I'm not quite sold on them to say that they're top 3. I would say that they're probably slightly above average. And, you know, they might be one of the better offensive or one of the better defensive lines that we'll see this season. You know, maybe they're top 3 from what Tennessee will see just in the regular season portion. But make no mistake about it, I personally, at this point in the season, feel like, you know, as we get into like playoff mode, things like that, we could end up seeing some better pass rushes. So we do have to do better, you know, just as far as pass protection goes. But looking at Larry Johnson kind of filling in that spot, I feel pretty confident with what he can do if he can be consistent playing that way. You know, that's going to be the thing. Can he string along maybe another game or 2 where, you know, maybe do you give him a little bit more reps filling in for John Campbell whenever he needs a spell over Dane Davis? I don't know. That's going to be up to the staff, but I wouldn't mind seeing maybe Larry Johnson getting a few more reps. You know, now he looked good playing at left tackle, which is all that he played in this game. But how's he going to look playing it right? That's the thing that Dane Davis gives you, that versatility where he can really fill in anywhere on the offensive line. But yeah, I mean, I think that it was pretty solid just as far as pass blocking goes from the entire team. Now let's take a look here, y'all, at the run blocking numbers. Again, man, you take all this stuff with a grain of salt from Pro Football Focus. I'm going to pull this key up for y'all, just kind of like same deal so that y'all can kind of make heads and tails of all the different metrics that they got on here. So taking a look right here with the run blocking numbers, up at the top, we've got Miles Kittelman. I think that he looked really, really good as a blocker. I don't know if I would say that he was our best run blocker by any means. We also have Andre Carrick at number 2. I think that Andre Carrick, I mean, listen, y'all, he's been very, very consistent. He looks good. And also, too, while y'all are looking at this, you can see right here where it says zone blocking. Obviously, that's going to, or it says zone. That's talking about all of the reps that all these players were in zone blocking. And then you look over at the gap scheme blocking to the right of that. This is something that I did point out in one of the videos, you know, after this game, saying that it looked like, based off of what Oklahoma was doing with their scheme, that the zone blocking was actually working better. I think that we're going to use that a lot more moving forward if teams do that, because teams are going to try to mimic it. It just looked like maybe Oklahoma was able to slow us down some. I really feel like, I mean, yeah, they did some really nice things, but I feel like at the end of the day, Coach Heupel just wanted to get up out of that game with the W and keep everybody really healthy, especially Nico. So that's why the game plan was a little bit more conservative than it could have been. But I just think that that's interesting that, you know, it is showing here with Pro Football Focus that the zone blocking as a whole, almost everybody did a better job in zone blocking than they did in the gap scheme. So anyway, moving on, yeah, I think that Andre Carrick, he's just playing well on, you know, whether he's pass blocking or if he's run blocking. Holden Stays doing a really nice job. Dante Thornton as a wide receiver, he's got a pretty good grade right here in run blocking, got a 60.8, which is not excellent, but I mean, it's one of the better grades that we have on this team. And then also Larry Johnson, man, he's up here again. It looks like he's in the top 5. So, and I mean, if you're just talking about offensive linemen, he's in the top 2. So that is very, very impressive, in my opinion, in such a big game. Again, on the road. So he got his first little taste of SEC ball. Now, I do think that, you know, the road, the crowd noise and all that type of stuff, that's going to be a lot better as we kind of get into SEC play, because Oklahoma is not quite there, in my opinion, and from kind of like what I've heard. But Larry Johnson should have some confidence, because I've got some confidence in him, no questions asked. We see Brew right here. Mike Matthews, I don't remember him even playing, but so Mike, Chaz Nimrod, Nico as a blocker. When the hell did Nico block? So let's see, like, you got to take some of this stuff kind of like with the grain of salt. But let's talk about the rest of the offensive line. Cooper Mays, he got a 59.7 overall in run blocking, and blah, blah, blah. Looks like right here, he got a 54.7 in his zone blocking. And it looks like he got a 62. There it is. He got a 62.7 in his gap scheme blocking. So he will be one of the exceptions to that rule for sure. Now, right here, John Campbell, you see that he was a lot better in his zone blocking than he was in his gap scheme. He's 60, or he had a grade of 60 in his zone blocking, and then he has a grade of 48 in his gap scheme. And man, D-Samp, he's definitely got to do better. Let's see what Spraggs does right here. So Spraggs got a 52.2 in his zone blocking, and he got a 44.4 in his gap scheme. Let's see what the difference is up here with Andre Carrick, 77.8 in zone, 52.2 in gap scheme. And right here, Larry Johnson, 67.7 in zone and 54.8 in the gap scheme. So just kind of like looking at all that stuff, you know, as you're breaking it down, obviously, we've got some depth, okay? We've got some guys that we do have some confidence in that can come in and play well. This is just a very, very small sample size. It's only one game. I think that Dane Davis has played better in some other games. This is definitely the worst game that he's played all season versus OU. But he's a guy that I understand, or that I know that the staff trusts, right? We understand that the staff knows that he can play in a whole lot of different places and that he's going to understand what to do. There's just a few small things that I feel like he needs to get cleaned up. It's not like he's necessarily getting killed. It's just, maybe his body is a little bit off, or he's just like a step late here and there, but he can get that fixed. He's going to need to continue to work on his craft. He's the main one that I would say need to see some big leaps forward from this week, throughout the entire bye, and then heading into the next week versus Arkansas. And we're going to pull that schedule up here in just a second for you. But yeah, I would love to know what y'all's thoughts are on how the backups looked, how our starters looked. What do you think about Pro Football Focus's numbers? Are these grades on point? You know, do you think that it could be kind of switched around in some places? I think that Spraggs could be moved up some. He's way too low. Now, he hasn't been perfect by any means, but I just think that they're being a little bit too hard on Spraggs. But pretty much outside of that, I think that it's pretty accurate. Also, I think that John Campbell, you can move him up just a taste. I think that he should be somewhere right around where Coop is. You know, I think that they're about on the same level as far as the execution and things like that. But let's move on to the schedule. All right, so this is our schedule. We already know how it looks for the most part. We're in a bye week at this point. After that, we've got Arkansas. That game's going to be flexed either, I think, at 7 or at 7:30. It's going to be another late game. I'm wondering, man, will we ever get like a midday game? I mean, I'm hoping that we do. I was really hoping that this Arkansas game would have been one. I feel like that was a perfect time coming out of that bye to get a game at a different time in the day so that we could maybe get whatever we need to get changed inside of that week just to get, adjusted for that time. But I mean, it's not a huge deal by any means, but it feels like at this point with ABC and with ESPN, they want to give the best matchup or, the team that everyone wants to watch the most, obviously that primetime game. And man, look, our balls are primetime football at this point. So it'll be interesting to see if we ever get a game that's like midday. Probably have to wait until, I don't know, maybe like Mississippi State or UTEP or something like that. Either way, all right, coming up, Arkansas and Florida. Well, I'm not even going to mess with Alabama because we know that we need our starters back for Alabama. But just talking specifically about our two tackles who we know are trying to get themselves back as healthy as possible. How do we feel if, maybe Larry Johnson or maybe Dane Davis go out there and they're getting a bulk of the snaps versus Arkansas and Florida? Can we still win those games? I've watched both of those teams play. Really kind of just started to watch Arkansas even closer. So I would say that I know them a little bit better than I know Florida at this point. I think, personally speaking, y'all, that we could go out there and beat Arkansas with those two guys playing. Now, again, at this point, you feel a lot more confident having Larry Johnson out there based off of what he did last weekend. But I still think that Dane Davis could go out there and do some good things versus Arkansas. It's not a crazy pass rush. They've got some really big guys up front. And I think that our tempo is going to gas them out because they're not the most athletic guys. They look a little bit out of shape, especially on the inside. But I think that, yeah, this could be a game where those guys could get some more confidence. So, I mean, I want to see Lance come back. I want to see John Campbell get himself healthy and, play in this game. But you feel good, right? Like you feel good about the depth that you have. I would also like to see in this game coming up, and I know we still got a whole nother week, so things could change drastically. But I would love to see Jesse Perry get in there some more. I would love to see some of these other young guys get in there just because we need to continue to build that depth up. If we can get off to a good start versus Arkansas, put that game away early and get as many young people in, especially on the offensive line as possible, that would be huge because it does kind of feel like John Campbell's going to be in and out, pretty much all year. So we've got to build up as much depth as possible because if you look at the totality of our offensive line, Dane Davis being that, kind of do-it-all guy, once he's plugged in at tackle, now all of a sudden at the other spots, if somebody else has to come out, then we're pretty thin. So we've got to continue to build that depth. So I think that we should be fine versus Arkansas with, I'm not going to say almost any lineup, but from what we've seen so far this season, as far as, kind of like the starting-esque type of players, we should be fine. Now, for Florida, I could say the exact same thing. All really just depending on what happens over these next couple of weeks. Florida's getting really close to firing Billy Napier. I think that once that happens, it could maybe ignite that team or, maybe they just completely and totally say, look, we're done. We're going to pack it in. I would really, I would prefer for that to happen where Florida's packing stuff in just because, look, yeah, maybe it's like a jinx or it's a curse, whatever, versus Florida. We should absolutely kill Florida this season, even at their best. But that's one of those games that that they're really going to get up for it because it is, it's an old school rivalry game. But I feel, pretty much the exact same way as I do about the Arkansas game. I think that we could play Larry Johnson and we could play Dane Davis and get out of those games with a W, maybe even with a big time W. I think that we could win it by a pretty large margin. So with such a long season left, we see Alabama coming up. Then after that, we've got a couple of games up against some teams that we should be able to handle, right? Then we've got UGA. We got to win all these games, really. But if you're going to look kind of towards the future, the games that you know that you need your guys to go in is going to be Alabama and Georgia. Do you want to rest your, players? Do you want to rest John Campbell and Lance Hurd for this upcoming week? I don't think that we do it with Lance. But, there is a possibility that maybe we tried with John Campbell. And I'm not 100% sure what his injury is. I don't know if resting him will get it, better or, to make it not as nagging for him for the rest of the season. But if that's the case, I would almost lean towards, hey, maybe you take that chance versus Arkansas. Give him one more week just to get himself ready. But those are my thoughts, y'all. Please let me know yours down in the comment section. I think that this Tennessee team is looking really, really good, man. Maybe we'll do another one of these types of videos, just kind of touching on some players for our defense that maybe we could sit out. I don't think that we need to do that, though, because it feels like everyone there is pretty much healthy. But, I think that things are going very, very well for our Volunteers. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. As always, thank you for sticking all the way to the end. And please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other Volunteer fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.